I'm not sure about that new music from StreamYard. That sounds like a new song, and I am not loving that. So
New hold music.
Yeah, it was. It felt like the old, those John Hughes movies from the '80s. That was getting that kind of vibe off of that. You know what I'm talking about, like 16 Candles and stuff. I might have to see if I can do something else with that because I don't know that I can tolerate that. So happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to the Friday Night Prepper pre-party show. We're going to get right into this topic here in just a second. I want to say hi to a couple people that I saw that have been hanging out and waiting for us. Coffee First, thank you so much for joining us. Scott Hummer, thank you. Virginia Bushcrafter, always good to see you. Lazarus Long, Rural 2IC.
Yay.
Wayne Becoming Dangerous, thanks for helping out. Appreciate you guys. And as usual rules here, folks. Make sure you are just be kind to each other. That's really all I ask. Just be respectful, be kind. It's okay to disagree, but don't be a jerk about it. That's all. So, let's get right into it. Welcome back to Sassy Gal Prepping. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. You're always welcome on the channel.
Yay.
And what are you doing these days? I know you're a little bit more active on Instagram, right? Is that where people should be trying to catch you?
Yeah, I haven't I need to get back to making videos. This
Oh,
year has
I
been
get it. It's hard. I get
yeah,
it.
this year I just haven't really felt I don't know. I kind of got a little with it. But Sassy Gal has been in school, so I've been doing some of the got a scholarship to get some mental health coach degree or a certification, I should say. And so I'm really excited about that. And so that's been keeping me busy. But yeah, I've been on Instagram a
Okay.
lot doing, engaging over there and watching everybody's videos and commenting and stuff. So
Yep. And I also, for those of you who have never seen Sassy Gal before, which I think you've been on my channel at least 3 or 4 times now.
yeah, a little
Uh,
bit.
yeah. In the description, I do have her YouTube channel. I do recommend you go ahead and check it out. There's great content over there, and it sounds like at some point you're probably gonna swing back to that.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yep, I got. So once I get through February, I manage a scouting troop, American Heritage Girls, and that is
I
they
love
say
it.
it's only 1 hour a week, but no, it's like a
Yeah.
second job for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, and,
yeah,
and I totally get the time commitment that it takes to create content. Like there are many days where I'm sitting there and I have a billion ideas. There's never a shortage
oh,
of
I know,
ideas
right?
for me. It's the time to do it is always the problem for me, right? Like there's so many other things that are pulling my attention. I have a consultation business that I do for mental health. And so there's always these things that are like, I got to do this, I got to do that. And I always also, and this is part of what we'll be talking about tonight too, is part of mental health. I have to remind myself, you need time for you, and
Yeah.
you need to schedule time for your wife, right? Like I have to
Oh, yeah,
always be mindful of that stuff.
yeah.
So I get it that like sometimes it's like, man, I know I need to make a video, but I just I got all these other things that need my attention, and I haven't stopped to read a pleasure book in a week, 2 weeks. Or I haven't gone for a hike in a week, or you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
it's life gets away from us.
And I didn't have I got a new phone at Christmas, and so like the previous like 6 months of last year, my phone, so, like it's easy to record video on your phone, like
Hmm.
in the car. I used to do that all the time, and then
Hmm.
I was noticing that my microphone was going in and out a lot,
Hmm.
and so it took more time on the editing end to
Yeah.
try to bump up the volume and stuff so you could hear. And I said, I just kind of got frustrated, and now I have a new phone, and I've been testing everything, so I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm getting excited again. So
Good deal. All right, so let's dive into some of what you were talking about there with you've been working on some new education, and that's kind of leads into what we're talking about tonight.
yeah,
And you're already mental health first aid certified, right?
yes,
Which one
yes,
do you want to talk about first?
I, whatever. I'm
Let's talk
good
about
with
the
whatever.
mental health first aid certification first.
Okay.
All right. So, how did you go about doing that? Because people ask me about this all the time. I talk about mental health first aid, and I'm going to put a link right now, folks, because
Oh, good.
I finally found it. This is where this link that I'm going to put in chat is where you're going to go if you want to find a mental health first aid course near you.
Yes.
And bear with me because my computer it's my mouse actually that's there's something up with my mouse. It's super sensitive, and so like I think I'm clicking once, and it's like I need to
I didn't
go
want
into
to do that.
yeah, I need to go into settings and tweak it. All right, it's coming up right now on chat there.
Oh, I see it. There it is.
So, how did you get started with the mental health first aid certification? What got you into that?
Yeah, well, so before I heard about that this was even a thing, I had been, as a layperson in my church, I was doing addiction counseling. So it was a faith-based group that we had on Friday nights, and I did that for approximately 12 years. And we had men's groups, ladies groups, and we would meet every Friday night at the church. And we would, and I just had a love for that, for women who were, struggling, coming out of, a lot of times we'd get them out of the jail. They would come right to us. Sometimes we were what a judge would assign, like you have to go through this kind of a program. So we would get them, and just to be able to be the faith-based part. Some of these people were seeing a doctor, or that, because they were coming off of, they were in rehab or something, or they were coming out of a methadone clinic or something. And, so there was that. And then, but we were the spiritual part. And that's the part I really enjoyed, was trying to help others, these women, try to find significance in their life, how, faith could be a part of that, how Jesus can help them. So that was where a lot of it started. And I don't even know how I discovered mental health first aid, probably just through lots of circles, maybe on social media or something. And I said, oh my goodness, I didn't know that was a thing. And I wanted to do it. I'm already like first aid certified for this scouting group that I run the troop for. And I said, well, let's do this too. So in a lot of it, it was very good training to just have some tools to be able to know what to say, kind of what to look for. I mean, you're not there to be, a therapist or a counselor, but you're there. Maybe someone's going through a crisis moment, and you can be that person that they can lean on and have some, like a grounding person, to have something just safe to be like, okay, I can be here. I can talk to you. Just listen and just be there for someone. And then also be able to have some resources to be able to point them to someone else, point them to their pastor, point them to, if they have a doctor or a person that they normally go to, like a friend or someone else, you can help get them to that area as well. But it is very, what I want to say, it's encouraging for someone like me. I love to talk with people anyway. It's just very encouraging to have those tools and that training to just, to be able to be there and help someone have that confidence. So
absolutely. How long was the course for you?
That's a good question. I don't even remember. I want to say I did it within a couple sessions.
Okay.
It wasn't like months of training or anything. It was, like when I did first aid, CPR, what do you call it? AED and child first aid. So, and I did that. I did like the book part first and then did the hands-on part. So there were 2 sessions. And I think it was pretty much the same thing with the mental health first aid. It just, there was some book stuff and then we had discussions. So,
yep. So as preppers, why do you think that this is important we need, I'm a clinician and I tend to think of, mental health first aid is like, just like a surgical team can't be everywhere. Right.
Right.
So we have paramedics that are out there in the community that are helping people to get them safely triaged to the next level of care. And that's how I tend to think of that. Why do you think this matters for prepping though?
Well, that's a good question. I didn't think about that one.
Yeah, so if there's an emergency, right? Like system, when things happen, like let's just take Hurricane Helene, okay? Like that hit Tennessee and North Carolina really, really hard, and systems get completely shut down. They were people from my area, which I'm a couple hundred miles away, were flying in via helicopter to provide mental health treatment for people that were dealing with the trauma from that incident. Okay, from that hurricane.
Right.
So when systems get shut down, we need every paramedic on the ground, doing as best as they can to help stabilize situations in the community, right? And doing what they can. So the more people who get this, the better it is, right? So I used to, early in my career, I got training with a group called the National Organization of Victims Assistance, and they're
Mm.
just they're
Mhm.
just one of these groups that goes out to these emergencies. They were one of the groups that responded to the Oklahoma City bombing, for example,
Yeah.
and just working with people that were having mental health issues from that tragedy, right? So it can be acts of terrorism, it can be natural disasters, it can be a local fire, tornadoes, right? It doesn't even have to be like something big that even makes the news. It can be an active shooter situation, right? So,
Yeah. Mhm.
whenever you've got these life or death situations, we always know about the physical health pieces of it, but there's also a huge mental health piece of it that, if it's not mitigated, can be, and I'm not going to say it always is, can be for some people more debilitating as time goes on, right? So it
Right.
starts with an
Right.
incident, and then depending on how that person's responding to that incident, it can become PTSD or anxiety or panic attacks or depression or all these other like cornucopia of issues that now are also impacting your job, your marriage, your family, right? So it's like this can become this really snowball effect and if we're in SHTF situations, right, we don't need people shutting down. We need to keep people moving, operating, you
Right.
know, doing the best that they can in those moments. So I wish I could get every prepper to get that certification. That would be a wonderful goal.
Right, I agree. And I think so from your perspective, having people like us, more of us to be able to be on the ground kind of getting that first line of help and that just could be just sitting with someone and letting them cry, letting them talk. And one of the things that they were talking about in one of my last class sessions, we refer to as a ministry of presence. And
Hmm.
of course, this is faith based for me. So this is,
Hmm.
this mental health coaching certification is going to be for, like they want to equip lay people in the church, but that's
Hmm.
just your average person, right? It
Hmm.
doesn't have to necessarily be inside the church house. It's just
Right.
that I'm, I can offer the spiritual component there, but offering someone, to maybe encourage them to pray if that's something that they do, encourage them to to talk and to talk it out. I think that was one of the things you said in one of your last videos when you're talking about mental health,
Mhm.
about getting people to talk through situations. I don't know if that was the EMDR you were talking about or something, but you were
It could have
mentioning.
been, yeah, but you're 100% you're on point, right? So
Yeah.
if I've got, me as a clinician and I can't be there to work with 200 people who are just now been affected by an Oklahoma City bombing or
Right.
3,000 people, or I can't do that, right?
Right.
So
Right.
so we're going to pull in as many clinicians as we can, but it's still not going to be enough.
Right.
Now,
Right.
if we've got twice that amount in certification for mental health first aid, here's the part that they may or may not tell you is that if you are able to do that early intervention, which is again just sometimes just listening, validating, uh,
Yes.
that
Yes.
will mitigate so much damage. It really
Yeah.
is amazing why, when we in the clinicians that I work with, when we're responding to what we would call a critical incident for first responders, we want in there as fast as we can. As soon as it's safe, we want to talk to our guys and women,
Yeah.
and we want to, like, how are you doing? What are you thinking about? How is this affecting you? What were the thoughts that were going through your head when this happened? How are you
Right.
sleeping, right? And I know that sounds invasive, but the reason is we want to mitigate the damage. We want to if I can get you talking about it, and I can get you getting it out of here and onto here where we're sharing it, and we can validate it and kind of get it, maybe even there's like, well, I thought this was my fault, right? When it's not their fault,
Right.
right?
Right.
And we can kind of talk them through that. That mitigates so much damage. It really, that
Right.
can be the thing that prevents PTSD for some people.
Yes. And, one of the statistics they shared, and I'm hoping I'm going to get this number right, but it was, I think the number was 11 years before someone gets like initial symptom to the time they get to somebody like you. And if you can just imagine that you're thinking about having something, or you're going through, like even I was sharing with you earlier, something that I was going through after the birth of my second son, or my second child. He was a son. But there was a long period of time before I ever dealt with it, because I didn't want to admit it, or I had people telling me that it, you just pray through it and you'll be fine and all this stuff. And by the time I actually started working on it and working with a counselor, it was pretty much a full decade by the time I actually started getting to that point.
Yeah.
And so when you imagine that times millions of people in America, and we have such a rise in, just mental health issues and things. I'm sure you see it too. There's just such a, there's a rise in it, even just since 2020. Just being that front, just being that front person and helping someone talk something out, talk it through. I do a lot of, I get a lot of the grief part. We've had in the last couple years, we've had a lot of my friends have had friends that have passed away, or family members. And just the sudden loss, getting people to talk through that initially.
Yeah.
I shared in a video, I think it was last year in May, where my daughter lost her best friend. And I shared that in a video. It was close to all of us, because, this young man that she was friends with was like a son to us. And so it was very close to us. But what I just remember encouraging my daughter, I don't care what you can say, whatever you want, and you can yell and scream at God, and you can do whatever. I want you to just get out whatever you're feeling. I wanted her to talk to me. Not just because I, like you need to talk to me, whatever, I wanted her to get out whatever she needed to say. If she needed to say, I hate that dump truck driver that ran into him, and I hate whatever. And she actually had some people come to her and say that were from our former church. She said, they said, you shouldn't hate that man, and you shouldn't hate this or whatever, because hate's not of God and this. And I told her, this one particular person that was talking to her, I said, you need to, this is not what my daughter needs to hear. And, thank you for your advice, but it's not wanted.
and not where she's at. Not where she's at.
Exactly. I said, if she needs to identify all the feelings that she's going through, which is another thing, is getting these people, encouraging people that have gone through these traumatic experiences, like you mentioned, the flooding and stuff, that if we can get people to start identifying feelings, and working through it, and just, letting it out rather than bottling it in, then it's going to be so much, their healing is going to go so much faster, so much better, I guess.
Yeah. And when we're going through grief, we have to experience those emotions.
Yeah.
You can try to stuff it in a box, and you can try to drink it away, but eventually you're still going to have to go through those emotions. So the best thing to do is let yourself be angry, let yourself be sad, let yourself, there's even, guilt and
right.
should I have called this person? Right. And the reality is, nobody knows, right? I was talking with somebody about Kurt Cobain recently.
Right.
When he, I'm trying to think of the YouTube friendly words, unalived himself, when he because YouTube will censor things,
they will.
Even though we're professionals and we're talking about this in a professional capacity, the AI can't distinguish that. So when Kurt Cobain unalived himself, a lot of people were mad at Courtney, his wife, and she should have been there, she should have been there. Well, he and Courtney were going through some pretty difficult times at that point, and they were probably on the verge of breakup. So,
Mhm.
no, she probably didn't need to be there, and but people have a right to be angry, and you look for, you're looking for a place to blame. When my mom passed away, I was mad at God for a while.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yep.
then I got to that place where I was mad at myself for being mad at God and went to shame and the guilt about that, and all of that is part of grief.
It is.
All that is part
Mhm.
of grief. And so,
Mhm.
um, yeah, you have to let the person go there. And if they're a person of faith, they're going to find their way back to the path anyways. You just got to give them that space to be able to do so.
Well, and I think that's a key thing right there is giving them that space, allowing someone to, if you're going to have coffee with someone, and this is, I'm coming from my perspective here. If I'm going to sit down and just have coffee with someone or meet someone just to go for a walk in the park or something and just let them talk. Sometimes they will talk themselves right back to where they need to be.
Right.
Sometimes they might go off on a tangent, but but my, if I could say my job is not to tell someone how they should feel or say, well, you've grieved long enough. That's, that's not my job. It's whatever you need for however long. And
Right.
I'm here to support you. It's that emotional support, to be that person to kind of just lean on for a little while.
Yeah.
And I'll be here to help hold you up. I'll be here to encourage you, cry with you, laugh with you, whatever.
Yeah.
And then if they want my advice or if they want some help, I then where I want to make sure what I'm doing is, as a faith-based mental health coach, is making sure that I'm keeping up with my own relationship with the Lord and my own studies, to be able to know scripture, to be able to say, hey, I think if you read Psalm such and such, you might find some encouragement here, to be able to point them to places,
Mhm.
in scripture, or to be able to just like I think you were saying earlier about the knowing about their faith background, you might be able to
Mhm.
help point them back to something that will ground them in their faith. If they're, depending on what they believe in, if it's a
Right.
pastor or if it's a certain prayers that they do or things like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it, right? Like, so you're operating within your church, so you're probably going to be mostly encountering people who have a similar beliefs, similar faiths. Whereas I can get anybody coming in through the door with any possible religion in the world, including a few that I had never heard of before, right? And so,
yeah,
if they want to work with that, I'll work with that. I
right.
sometimes need them to explain it to me, and what does that mean for you? What do you think happens to a person after they die, or
Yeah,
do you have personal religious beliefs about taking medications, right? Like, because all
right.
that's, I'll work with wherever they're at with it. And the
Yep.
big thing is, a lot of people in my field are afraid to do that, but we don't need to be. You need to be wary of, I can't put my faith on my patient.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
can't convert them. That's not my goal. It's not my
Right.
role,
Right.
my role is to help you get to where you're wanting to be within your beliefs. And
Yes.
I think sometimes people get intimidated by that.
Yeah. And sometimes where another reason I got involved in this is that churches in general are lacking in this area of having someone on their staff or just someone in their midst that they know they can talk to,
Mhm.
that um the goal, I guess, that they're trying this the American Association of Christian Counselors, their goal is to be able to have, somebody in every church or a staff of people, or, where you
Mhm.
have small groups or something that would talk about this,
Mhm.
or be willing, I should say, be willing to go there and talk about topics that are uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And what happens is what we've been finding is a lot of pastors are, I'm not saying that this is the key or the one thing that all churches are like this, but most times pastors don't want to talk about it, or they're not comfortable talking about it. And what they will do is they'll end up just having a list of resources and
Mhm.
just say, I'm sorry, let's that you're going through this, I'll pray for you, and here's some resources, and hand
Mhm.
you a piece of paper.
Mhm.
And that's, I mean, that's good, but having someone like me, this is my goal, where I would be able to, have say, hey, you know what? I know someone who, if you're interested, that deals with what you're going through. You might benefit from this. How about we call them, or how about I go there with you and we can set up an appointment? Building a network for me is going to be a goal. So I have lots of resources for different things, so people, just their different expertise, plus if they're close or not. I mean, there's all kinds of things that people are that are hindrances to them getting help, not just, the stigma of it. We're talking about like insurances and cost and distance and all that stuff. And so that's going to be a huge thing for me, is just building a network of information, but being willing to roll up my sleeves and get right in there with them. That's the type of person that I am. Like if you're going through something, hey, let me come alongside you, which is the difference between me and you, is that I come alongside them to be the emotional support, to hopefully maybe drive them if they need to. Not everybody needs to, but if they could benefit from having a couple of sessions with someone like you,
yeah. You were saying beforehand, you can even go and bring them if that's what's going to get them in the door.
Absolutely. Yeah. To be that encouragement that they need. So
why do you think it's still so hard? I mean, it's gotten better, and I credit, honestly, I'm going to credit Gen Z for this. Gen Z has made it easier and more accessible to say, I'm talking to a therapist, right? I don't know who started it, if it was a big influencer that did it or whatever, but I'm grateful for it. Because it has diffused a lot of the stigma. And I talk about in the first responder world, because, in the first responder culture, there's this like suck it up buttercup kind of culture. But when you've got, it's in the church sometimes too. But when you have like a battalion chief saying to his firefighters, I go and talk to a therapist and it's helping me, the impact that has of normalizing it is huge.
Yes.
When people are in a position of leadership or somebody that people look up to normalizes it, it makes a huge difference in making it accessible. But there's still that resistance to and I have my thoughts on this, but I'm curious what your thoughts are. Why does it take us so long to say I got to call and make an appointment with a therapist?
Okay, so if it were me, I am the type of person who will suck it up and I will just try to take care of it myself. I'll go through this myself. I'll look something up. I'll read this or this and the other thing. I think it takes a certain level of, you have to admit that there's something. And so that takes a little bit of humility to understand that I don't have it all together, but it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. I mean, I guess one of the phrases that is going around, I think, we need to get over ourselves a little bit to be able to actually go and just say, hey, just to take a step back and look and say, I just need to talk to someone.
Right.
And I think if they can talk to someone, no offense, talk to someone like me first. Right. And they're just like, oh, I'm just talking to you. You're just, I see you, every week at church, or I see you, whatever, and you're a friendly person to approach and whatever. I can just talk to you first, and then it can go from there. Just like, hey, you know what? Hey, I see a therapist. What's wrong with that? And also the other thing, especially since I'm talking about churches, if our pastors or leaders, like you were talking about the leaders, if they're talking about it more, if these topics are addressed from the pulpit, and it's like, hey, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
If it's addressed a little bit more, I think people will be like, oh yeah, okay. That it's not so bad. These are real things, and point in the Bible where people even like David, for instance, in the Bible, he wrote tons in the Psalms where I swear he was going through some kind of a mental crisis. He's in a cave, he rents his clothes, tears his clothes up, he's, God, what's going on, and my enemies, and this is, and he's crying out. I think he might have had some moments.
Sure.
And I think that makes these if we read in the Bible and we read these people, these people, what they
Mhm.
went through, they make them seem more real. And it's like, hey, they're relatable.
Mhm.
He did this or he went through this and he did these and he sought God and, okay, this is a real thing.
Mhm. That we were talking backstage about the book of Job, when I was going through my time with my grief for losing my mom. That was one of the things that kind of resonated for me, and the book of Job always will probably have that resonation for me,
Yeah.
where you know Job's friends at one point were basically telling him, why is God making you suffer? Why is God, if God is so loving, why are you going through this? Why don't you ask your God? Why don't you ask him? Right. And they keep pressuring him. And he's like, no, God's got this. God's got this.
Mhm.
I'm not going to question God. And then finally, Job breaks down and he asks God. And God says, gird your loins, Job, because now I'm going to ask you a question and you will answer me. Right. And I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing a little bit. And then the next like 15 pages are basically like, did you decide how far the sea would go? Did you decide the songs that the birds would sing? Did you
Yes.
decide where the land would end and the trees would grow? Did you decide which animals would hunt the birds? And it's like 15 pages of like all these things that are how the universe operates. And the message that I took from that was, and somebody else may have a different take on it, and that's fine. The message that I took from it was, there are things that we don't understand the purpose of.
Right.
And for me, losing my mom was that,
Mhm.
because my mom was a good woman, right? And she died young. And, part of my thought process is, well, why did you take mom
Yeah.
instead of a serial killer or something? Like it didn't make sense to me, you know?
My daughter said the same thing to me when her friend Jake, I'll say his name. I keep saying his friend, but he does have a name. So when Jake, she was saying the exact same thing to God. Why did you take him
Mhm.
and leave the dump truck driver? Why did
Right.
because she says that's just not fair, and when, of course, again, get it out. Let ask all the questions and let's search for answers or just search for comfort, because sometimes we may not have the answers. You're not going to really know until one day, if you come face to face with God, what really happened.
Yeah. And I think one of the lessons that I've taken away from that too was that things don't make sense when they happen.
Right.
But what I always tell my patients is that because of the experiences that you've been through, you don't realize this yet, but there's going to come a time later in your life where you're going to be like, because I went through this, I'm better prepared to handle that. Or it's
Mhm.
because I went through this person who's now in front of me who's struggling, I understand how they're feeling and I can be a little bit helpful here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And so we've got, everything is going crazy in the world, and then we need to, help, not only help ourselves be mentally stronger, but just for our own self, but we also should, work on being mentally stronger to be able to deal with
Yeah.
others around us who don't understand things that are going on. And of course, we're talking about a lot of traumatic events, but then there's just, there's, of course, I don't know, is everything in the world traumatic right now? Like, is everybody treating it like some big traumatic event
It's
from the
personal,
news
right?
to
Like, so at one point I had a chicken farm and I had over 100 chickens, and it was sad when a chicken died, but I didn't necessarily like cry for 2 years. When my dog died a couple of years ago, that's still hitting
yeah,
hard. It's
yeah,
still kicking my butt. So it's personal, right? Like it
yep,
depends on your connection to things and your connection to animals and other people and whatnot. And it's hard to know. It's really hard to know what things are going to hit us hard. But everybody's
that's true.
susceptible to it.
Mhm. That's
Everybody,
that's right.
it's not a question of like I was weak or because I've worked with special forces guys. If you if you think it's a matter of weakness, then you don't understand mental health. It's something that there but for the grace of God, literally. Like, if you're doing well, be happy that you're doing well, because it can change the next day. It can change in minutes. And depression and anxiety, especially, anybody can be prone to those. Anybody can be exposed to a trauma, and your life can
Yes.
change really, really
Yes.
fast.
You're right. It does change you. So like my daughter, it changed her in this last year. I've seen her do things that she would not, this in a good way. She's done things that she would not normally do.
Yeah,
She overcame some fears. She rode roller coasters, and she's taking a trip with some friends
I
in a
love that.
couple, yeah, in a couple months. Well, she discovered she liked them. So she's like, yes. But she is getting behind the wheel. She has a goal of getting her license by the summer, and that's taken a long time. She's I don't know, I think I've shared on my channel before, she has the sensory processing
Mm-hmm.
issues. So there's a lot of anxiety that she has, and she's learned how to really just work through that.
I love that.
But in this last year, this it her this sorry, I still get emotional about it.
Yeah.
This situation with Jake changed her, and I think for the good. I think she realized that she wanted to, if there was an opportunity, she wanted to take it, and she wanted to overcome it. And she had a letter from him that he wrote her from boot camp, that was kind of almost prophetic, but he was encouraging her, like almost from the grave, and he was encouraging her to, like, you've got this, and you can do anything that you set your mind to. And so she had that, and she just started she's surprising me. And so I was
Love
like,
it.
yeah, so it changes you. And my hope is that, these events will change us for the better. Maybe it will take some time,
Yeah.
but it will make you either, stronger, or make you realize some things about yourself, or,
Yeah.
and it would make us better, and not go the other way.
Yeah.
So
It's hard to see it in the moment, though, when we're in that much pain. It's hard to know that we're always going to take some strength away from it. We're always going to get something, a lesson,
yeah.
something that makes us stronger, or more resilient, or more able to help somebody else that's going to come across our path later. But when you're in that moment, it's hard to see that,
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we go on to your next thing that you've been working on, folks, if you're getting anything of value out of this, please consider giving us a thumbs up, and make sure you're checking out Sassy Gal Prepping on Instagram. I've got it rolling across the screen down below, and also in the description I've got links to both her YouTube and Instagram. And I think I've got some discount codes for products in there as well, if you want to check some of those out, if you're a prepper and you're interested in some of that stuff. So before we go into what you've been working on, let's give them one or two little things that they can do if they encounter somebody after an emergency. Let's give a scenario. Let's say somebody in our audience today comes across a car accident, and it's a bad one. It's a bad car accident. Maybe there's a fatality, or there's somebody's getting wheeled away, and you don't know what the status of that person's going to be, and you've witnessed it, and maybe you even rendered a little first aid. But now you arrive on the scene, and you see that there's somebody else there that's kind of not looking well. They kind of look like they're in shock. They're kind of gazing off. Maybe they're not really responding too well to people, that kind of thing. What's a couple things that you and I could do here to teach people, like, just how do we help somebody in that situation? You want me to go first?
You go first? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So I actually have had this scenario a couple times, and probably a lot of people have. So I'm thinking of one time where we saw a van like roll over multiple times.
Oh my goodness.
I was riding with somebody that I worked with. We get out, grab the first aid kit, put on our gloves, like, we're ready let's do this, right? And I'm looking around, I'm like, where is he? Where's the driver? And now there's like a crowd of people, right? Like, kind of gathering around. And the worker that I was with kind of like taps my shoulder. She's like, back up. And I'm like, what's going on? And she points to somebody, and he's like pacing around. He's like amped up. And she's like, I think that's him. And he was in that full fight, flight, freeze mode, but he was a fighter, right? It's like he's angry and he's looking for somebody to hit. So like,
Oh no.
give that person some space, right? Don't go right in their face, because they're
Yeah.
looking for a target now, right?
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so we just kind of hung back, and eventually the EMS arrived, and we gave our little report of what we had seen and that kind of thing. But let's say that he wasn't. Let's say that he was just kind of standing there a little bit shocked. I would, first of all, like, hey, you okay? Can I approach? Like,
Yes.
hey, I'm a therapist, or I'm a mental health worker, or certified in first aid, or whatever you're bringing to the table. Can I approach? And then first you want to, of course, assess the scene for safety. Is there gasoline pouring out? Because then you got to get out of there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Make sure somebody's calling 911, all of that kind of stuff if they haven't already. And then once you've taken care of those, and if there's no physical injuries, then you're going to start to, like, hey, can you talk to me? Like, what happened? Do you remember anything? Do you know what today's date is? Do you know where you are
That's
right
good.
now?
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
you're doing there is you're trying to establish
Good name.
orientation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is, number one, it's going to tell you like what kind of mental status that person is. But number two, by getting them to think about those things, it usually will pull them out of that shock mode, right?
Pulling out of
So
it. Yeah.
yeah. So do
Yeah.
you know what today's date is? You could ask, like, who's the current president, and they might laugh at you like, duh, that's okay. That's fine. Tell me your first name. Okay. What do you remember? Is there anybody I can call for you? Right. So then they're going to probably start talking to you. And, what you want to do is just like listen. And a lot of times when people are in an emergency situation, their story is like, I can't believe that just happened. It doesn't feel real, because it
Yeah.
doesn't. It doesn't,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, that was pretty wild. I saw your van flip 3 times. I'm glad you're standing here, that must have been so scary, so that's validation, right? So we're just kind of giving it back to
Yeah.
them. Like,
Yeah.
if they say, no, it wasn't scary, I was angry. Okay, thank you for clarifying that for me. Right. It doesn't matter if you're wrong. You're just validating. When you do that for somebody, when you validate, it's like this little internal voice in them goes, yes, somebody gets it, and that's
Yes.
huge. That's huge. Because there's this other thing that goes on, and I can't get too into this because it'll probably take us all night. When you're invalidated after a trauma, that is another thing that can cause problems down the road. So
Yeah. Yeah.
validating whatever they say, it doesn't matter. Just
Yes.
validate it,
Their feelings are real.
Yeah. So then, like, if they're hyperventilating or something like that, you might, hey, can you sit down? We'll work on some breath work together, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
do you want to kind of lead us through a little bit of breath work, what somebody could do there?
Oh, I've always had just a calming breathing thing where you would breathe in,
Mm-hmm.
and you would breathe in for
Through the
like
nose?
3 counts. Huh?
Through the
What'd
nose?
you say? Yes, breathe in through your nose. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Can't you tell what I'm doing? No. Breathe in through your nose for like 3 counts. Hold it for 3, and then exhale. I exhale through the mouth, and like I like to actually do something that's just a little bit more physical than just exhaling air, but just like and actually a tight lip there, because it's actually
Mm-hmm.
getting some tension out to blow out that tension,
Mm-hmm.
like that, and then do
Yeah.
that a few more times to get your breathing to come down. That's usually it's oxygenating, getting all the oxygen everywhere, getting the blood flowing. And
Yeah.
it's calming, and it gives you something to think about too. That's why why women do breathing in labor. It gives us something to do and
Yeah.
something to think about.
And it actually activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is
Yes.
the opposite of your fight, flight, freeze. So it's
Yes.
literally telling the brain, okay, we're safe now. Start to shut it down, right? So you want to
Mhm.
kind of get them out of that fight, flight, freeze mode. So you're by doing that, it's sending those signals. Now it's not going to be immediate. It takes a little while for the brain to shut those systems down. And if they got a full adrenaline dump, it's got to kind of work through its body. It's got to
Yeah.
metabolize.
Yeah.
So, but it starts the process anyways. It kind of gets them moving in that direction. So then, hopefully by then EMS has arrived and taken over the scene for you.
I hope so. Yes, that's.
But
I'm
if
all like, you had me all in on the scene. I was like, oh my goodness, what do we got
yeah,
going on here?
but then you could do what we call prepare and predict, right? So, okay, so what's going to happen now is first responders are going to come. They're going to take your report and they're going to check you for injuries. And if you need to go to the hospital, they'll take you to the hospital. And then what you need to know is that afterwards, you may feel okay tonight and tomorrow, not so much. And that's been mentally and physically. Right. Like,
Yes.
so be prepared that we don't exactly know what the fallout of a situation is right away because that adrenaline masks a lot of it. Right. So, like, adrenaline is like super serum from like Marvel, they give to Captain
Wow.
America. It makes people strong, fast. They can't feel pain sometimes. Their
Yeah.
mental
Yeah.
processing speed is like jacked up, and so it does a lot of good things, but it also can be kind of hard to manage, and we don't know exactly what's going on. I've heard many soldiers tell me, "Yeah, I got shot and I didn't feel it for 20 minutes."
I've
And
seen
then
some of those videos of police cam footage where
mm,
I saw one where there was an active shooter thing, and he actually got shot, and you could see like all kinds of
mhm,
stuff coming out, you know,
and he
and
didn't
he
feel
was
it.
still running full force. He was still, making commands to other people and, I don't even, I mean, I'm sure he knew, I heard him say that, officer, I don't know what their code is, code whatever, but it was letting them know that he was injured. And, but he kept going. And I thought, oh
Mhm,
my goodness, he's got everything going everywhere.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
fluids coming everywhere.
and then I know adrenaline's good stuff. and then and then when they realize it, then it's like the brain says, "Oh, I've been hit," and then all of a sudden now I feel the pain. Like it's all of a sudden
Yeah.
it's really fresh to register.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so all right, so that's kind of some examples of like what you could do with mental health first aid, right? And so now you're taking it a step further than that and you've been working on your next level. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I attended a seminar in the fall, and as part of it was a women's seminar, and one of the goodie bag things on the
Mhm,
inside said if you were interested in mental health coaching, they were explaining all of this new program that they had.
mhm,
You could apply for a scholarship, and so I was like, really? I am totally interested. So I applied for a scholarship and it's from the American Association of Christian Counselors. And the scholarship was going to be to go to Light University, which is here in Virginia. And
mhm,
of course, I'm doing everything online, so it's all interactive and it's all bookwork, tests, everything. It's a accredited college,
love
and
it.
when I'm finished, well, actually, I extended. So now there's mental health coaching, but then there's also mental health coaching for youth. And
Mhm,
once I complete that, then I will have okay, I got to get this right. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it. I'll be a board certified master mental health coach
love it.
from the International Board of Christian Care. So I'm excited about that.
It's awesome.
Yes, I'm just like super excited.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's been again, I think one of the biggest things that drew me in is helping others find significance in life.
Mm,
And just, it's of course I have a life coach certification that I got several years ago back in goodness, what was that, 2019?
mhm,
And so all of this is kind of working together. That's the type of
absolutely.
person I am. I'm very much an encourager, empathic,
Mhm,
not psychic, but,
mhm,
but I'm a, empathic, compassionate type of
mhm.
person.
Yeah.
And I'm a good listener. And so just
Those
letting,
those are the 2 skills that you need right there, and when people ask me if they're thinking about going into the field, you need to enjoy listening to people because you will be doing a lot of that, and you need to have empathy, and I would say the third one, which you can develop as you go, is learning to regulate your own needs for boundaries and self-care as well.
oh yeah, that was one of the classes in one of the first section. When you're in college, you have like, math 101 and then
Mhm,
201 and 301. So like that first section was boundaries, and they were
mhm,
very much on, making sure, one, you know, you set your boundaries, you know, like you're talking about, like, I have to have time for me, I have to have time to recover, but then there's also boundaries with the person that you're talking with,
Yeah.
so that you don't develop something that shouldn't be there, or an inappropriate relationship or something, you know, because that could happen. There could be some kind of an attachment, especially if you
It
come up
happens a
on this
lot.
here just to talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, keeping your boundaries. But yeah, they spend a lot of time on that too, which it's a good reminder, because it reminded me of when I was in the addictions counseling all those years. People would get attached to you, and they, you know, I don't know if it's a savior complex or something. I don't know if that's even a thing, but they feel like you're the one that's kind of helping them come out of it, and they attach to you like you're their savior, and you're, you know, like, no, this is you, this is all you.
Yeah.
I'm just here to help you tap into your inner potential, and your, you know,
Right.
it's not
Yeah.
me.
So it actually happens a lot. And unfortunately I have seen more than a few therapists throw away their career by not having good boundaries, because, you know,
Yeah.
when you're sitting in a room with somebody, you know, and you're sitting just a couple feet across from them, and they're talking to you about some of the most painful moments of their life, and you're offering them a good ear and
Yeah.
empathy and
Yeah.
reflections and validations, there is that chance that the person is going to develop feelings for you, especially if, like, they haven't had that kind of validation from many people in their life, right? So it's that does happen. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the end of the therapy, patient therapist alliance, but you have to be able to say, let's pause, let's talk about what's happening here, because this can't happen, right? Like, my job is to be your therapist and to be helpful to you, and that if we can't stay on track with that, then I'm going to get you to another therapist, right? It's because we can't blur those lines. It's
Yeah.
really dangerous for the patient, and it will,
Yeah.
and for the therapist it will screw up your career. And I've seen a lot of therapists screw up their
Oh
career.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was noticing, sorry, I was peeking at the chat for a minute, and I noticed, um, I think it was Coffee First Then Speak said, I could never be a therapist. I get way too involved and invested. And I have had that happen. I get too involved with someone, where in the addictions ministry, you know, you see someone that is making so much progress,
Mhm.
and then you lose them. They just disappear. You don't know
Mhm.
what happened to them, and they're just
Mhm.
gone. And they're I take it personally, because I was there,
Yeah.
I was helping, I was right next to this person, so I started thinking like I did something wrong,
Mm.
or I wasn't good enough, or
No, do
whatever.
you know what it means? Because that happens a lot too. If you have somebody that's been making progress and doing well, and they just ghost out on you,
Yeah.
what it means is they don't need you anymore, and that's a good thing.
Okay.
That's a
Well, I
that's a good
didn't
thing.
take it that way.
Yeah, yeah. No, that it's okay. It's that happens a lot. And one of the hardest things in therapy is when a person's getting to the point where, like, hey, you've pretty much met your goals, and I think we're at a place here where it's okay to take a break for therapy. A lot of people avoid that conversation because it's hard to say,
Oh,
especially if you've been
yeah.
working with somebody for a year or longer than a year, and
Right,
now
yeah.
you're basically
Yeah.
saying this is the end of our relationship for now, right? Maybe down the road we see each other in that therapy relationship again, but this is it, right? And that's a hard conversation to have. It's, you know, it can be emotional. And you know, I have your role is different, so I don't know what the requirements in terms of like ethics and whatnot are for that.
Oh,
But
we have
in
lots
my
of
role,
ethics.
but so it's similar then. So in ours, like, you know, people will ask me, well, can we be Facebook friends now? And I really can't do that, you know.
No.
Now it's possible that sometimes people will discover my social media, and that's fine. I can't, you know, it's like if I
Well,
owned a store,
that's one thing, but
I can't say you can't come into my store, you know, like,
right,
right. So
right,
that stuff can happen organically or whatever, but I can't go out and have a coffee with you. I can't, you know, um, it's just that's the nature of the relationship, you know.
right.
Um,
Right,
there's
and
a
like you said earlier, sometimes these people don't have a lot of people just need someone to talk to, and if they're not having that, it will, like you, it will be easy for them to just attach. You'll be their friend, and they'll keep they'll keep paying you to come and see you just so that they can have a friend to talk to.
Well, I don't want somebody to pay me to, if that happens, then I don't feel like I'm doing a good job. I don't want somebody to pay me to be a friend. I want, if you're going to pay me, I want to help you get better and become independent.
Right. So like agreeing to do like so many sessions with them, like for you anyway, like seeing.
And then you can reassess it. Like, are we getting where we need to be? Do we need to tweak things and that kind of thing? Yeah. So, and this has gotten kind of screened out, thankfully, mostly, but there's probably still some therapists that are doing this that will like create this almost dependence with some patients. So there, you have like basically somebody who's coming in every week for the rest of their life, and that's not good. You shouldn't be doing that. Our goal is supposed to be to helping people become more independent,
Right.
So,
and this with a coach. So that was something else I think I said I wanted to at least address, was that there's a difference between a coach and a therapist. Like literally the coach, like me, I'm coming alongside you. I want to help pull out your potential. I want to help you see your potential. We focus on future and possibilities and opportunities. But I'm not somebody that would diagnose. I don't prescribe medication. I don't, I'm someone who can, be that resource for you to point you into a different, or into, maybe it's more than me. Maybe it goes deeper and you would need to see, a therapist or a, clinical, licensed clinical, what's the term I'm looking for? Therapist.
Therapist, yeah. I mean, there's all different. So when we use the title therapist, that could be licensed marriage and family therapist, that could be an LPC, licensed professional counselor, could be a licensed social worker, it could be a licensed mental health counselor, which is, I think, psychology. So there's numerous different degrees that fall under that umbrella.
Right. And there's a difference. So that's something that we would need to be careful, especially if this is going to be in churches, or at least in the faith-based community, that I could be that person to talk to, maybe a wife, and discover that there are some things happening. Then I could refer them to somebody who is a marriage therapist, because that's really not that's not my department at all. No. But I could talk to her, I could encourage her. I can, but marriage therapy wouldn't be my thing. But if it's her personally and for goals for her and her life, or even youth, helping them to be able to see, possibilities for them and in their life. And of course, they've been dealing with, they were addressing suicide. Ooh, I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. Sorry. Taking your own life. I think I could say that. Yeah. But they address that a lot, and being able to just kind of be that front person to be able to recognize that maybe there might be some signs here. Let's talk about some things. And if you do realize that, and anybody can do this. I think that's something I wanted to say earlier, is anybody, I want to say anybody, but just anybody can sit and listen and just be that present person in their life.
You don't have to have a degree for that. Yep.
Nope. And if we would all be more, mindful of that, to be able to, like someone just needs an ear. If you can lend 8 to 12 minutes to someone, I think I heard that recently, like, hey, do you have 12 minutes? It was if you can spare 12 minutes, I think most people can, just to listen. And that sometimes that's all that's needed. Is just to someone just to be able to, like, I'm best friend and I have this texting thing where I may not be available at like 4 a.m. or something, but she just needs to dump something and she'll text and dump it all. And then I'll wake up and be like, oh my goodness, why were you up at 4 a.m.? And then, and I can listen to her and then I could just, be validating of her feelings. And, it's like, hey, is there anything you want to talk about today? And then she does that for me. So we have that, anybody can do that. Like you said, you don't need a degree for that.
That's right. That's right. And so if we're going to start wrapping this up, folks. So if you all have any questions for Sassy or I, go ahead and throw them in there and we'll try to catch them. I am so sorry about this camera. I think it might be time to throw this camera out and get me a new one.
Sorry, I hope I didn't jinx your camera. I had all
No,
these technology problems last year.
it's been acting up for a while. I've been putting it off because it's not that old. It's one of those things like my own stubbornness has prevented me from replacing it.
The same way.
Yeah, but I think it's time for it to go to the recycling bin.
Oh no.
Um, so if I had this conversation with another prepping channel where they were asking if, let's say we had a really bad SHTF situation and, things got shut down for a while, things got, the system got really disrupted and people were starting, hey, Magbase, good to see you. And people were starting to go, what I would call tribal in that, like, they're banding together into these groups. Right. And then you've got somebody who's in the group who's got, maybe they've got a child who's got a severe mental health issue, or somebody's in the group and they start to develop a severe mental health issue. And I saw the Homestead movie, and they actually looked like they have a storyline that I haven't been able to watch the show because I think
I've wanted to see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how many episodes are out on the show, but I haven't bought it or paid for it or whatever. But the movie, they showed that there was probably a storyline about that somebody in the group has a pretty severe mental health issue. And what would you do, right? Like if you don't have a therapist in your mutual assistance group, and you don't have a life coach, and you don't have a certified mental health first aid person, what would you do?
Those would be bonuses.
What's that?
Those would be bonuses if you had that.
And my answer is don't kick that person out of the group, right? Like,
yeah.
Pick your person or persons in the group that are the most patient and that are the best listeners, and that are that can like listen to somebody and just gel with them, right? Like, we all know somebody like that like their personality, like they can go into a crowd and make a friend, and or even if they're like with people who are very different from them, they can still talk, and that's the person that you're going to assign to them. That's their buddy now. And that person's job is going to be to kind of keep an eye on that person and keep them from getting really ill, so that they're not a danger to themselves or other people. And you got to use the resources that you got. So sometimes there's stuff out there where people do have to take medications. I use schizophrenia as an example.
Yeah.
In my experience, 27 years in the field, I've never seen somebody with schizophrenia do well without medication.
Yeah.
I know there's a movie out there about the professor, Dr. Nash, the mathematician, A Beautiful Mind.
Oh.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he had schizophrenia, and he was a Harvard math professor, either Harvard or MIT. I don't remember which one. And people will refer to that, and I'll say, okay, so does your person have an IQ of 160? And
yeah, right.
You're also forgetting that Dr. Nash almost killed his family 3 times. So
yeah.
It's just not a safe thing, in my opinion. If you've got a family member with schizophrenia, get ahead of this now if you're a prepper, and get as much medication as you can store back. Jace Medical has antipsychotics that you can get.
Yes.
And get a year's supply. And then if a year rolls by and we haven't had an emergency, contact them and say, hey, can I get another year? Those medications, most of them will stay good for several years, right?
Yeah.
So if you somehow got 2 or 3 years of medications saved up, that's going to get you through 95% of emergencies, right?
Yeah.
Like, even like, so how long are we going on with the war in Ukraine now? Is what
3 years.
4 or 5, is it 3 years? Yeah.
Yep.
So and that's coming to an end, whether people like it or not. That war is coming to an end, and one way or the other. And so if you were in a situation like that, 3 years worth of medications would get you pretty far down the road.
Yeah, that's good. And it's necessary, because you never know if, even just in the last few years, there's been shortages or things. Like my husband has blood pressure medications and stuff, and, and you just have to try to stay on top. He gets 3 months at a time. So we try to, keep it back just so we have it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so not just mental health stuff, of course, the asthma, seizures, heart medicine, anything that's like your life is either dependent on it, or your quality of life is highly dependent on it.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff people can go without, right? Like, so if you take a multivitamin, and And you
Yeah.
just suddenly can't get multivitamins, it's still going to be a long time before you have a problem,
Right. Right. But yeah, those other meds you were talking about, and if you suddenly have to, that's suddenly not there, then
Mhm.
that's even worse than because you're
You're going to
suddenly
go through
stopping
withdrawal.
medication. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them you're going to go through withdrawal if you stop
Yeah.
taking some of these. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just looking for any questions that we might have had. No, Wayne, it's not. It's probably the most severe thing that in the field that I work in, in terms of the debilitating aspects of it and the prognosis for it. Schizophrenia is not a good time. All right, I'm not seeing any questions, y'all. If I did, I apologize. Oh, I did see one. Bacon's Gut wants to know what kind of pizza is Sassy going to make tonight. Are you making pizza?
No, I was wondering if is that in relation to another comment? Because he said something earlier
Oh, okay.
about call it what it is, because YouTube or social media, they oh shoot, where it is.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there it is. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Call it what
Yeah.
it is. People give words way too much power, and that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I
Pineapple
don't
on
want to
pizza
get Sarge in trouble though, so
wouldn't be the first time.
I got your back.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Oh, me? Oh, pineapple on pizza. Pineapple and ham. I love it.
Okay. Have you ever had a pickle pizza?
I have not. Ooh, have you?
Pickle pizza is awesome. You
You
got
know,
to
there's
try
a
it.
lot of pickle stuff out there that's like popular right now. There's like pickle everything. Like
If you like
pickle
if
it.
you like salty, if you don't like salty, you won't like it.
No, I do like salty. I'll have to try it. So what do you do? Just get like a
Just layer
cheese
pickles
pizza?
on it. Yep. Now you
Okay.
can, if you like steak and cheese, you could get like steakums and do like that, and so now you've basically got like a steak and cheese pizza with
Oh,
pickles,
okay. Oh,
Yeah. But you could do
that's
just
good.
pickles. Pickle pizza is awesome, and broccoli on pizza is phenomenal too. Have you had that?
Well, I've had a veggie pizza, I guess. But like you're talking about like a regular pizza with like the regular sauce and cheese and then you just put broccoli on it?
Just put broccoli on it. Yep.
That sounds good.
Yep. Because broccoli and cheese go well together, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Pickles on
All right.
everything. Bacon says.
Bacon and pickles. No.
Coffee first. I want you to try it. Next time you're making a cheese pizza at home, just take one slice and put some pickles on it and then heat that up. I want you to try it. I will make a believer out of you.
Is
It
it
is,
just is it a dill pickle or is it just or
yeah,
is
yeah,
it yeah,
dill,
okay.
not the sweet ones, dill. And obviously like the cucumber sliced kind, the little
The little
rings.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are good. Yeah.
Coffee for no.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's so good. It's so good. All right, Firefly, thank you for popping in. Yeah, so we were just saying the schizophrenia. So in my experience, I don't know any medicinal natural remedies that will effectively help with schizophrenia. It's one of those ones where like I strongly encourage people, like, you've got to have the right meds for this. And yes, the way that you would do this would be you can either have your family member save up a couple each month, and then like, you refill 2 or 3 days early, and then you take those 2 or 3 and you put them aside for them. That's one way. Or
Oh, good
go through
idea.
or go through Jace Medical and get a year supply, which is what, if you've got the money, that's what I would recommend to do.
I think Jace does they have FSA accounts or
They
like
do.
you can use those too.
Yep.
So
Yep. I will try that, Bacon.
oh, hey, I love broccoli salad.
I'll try it.
Bacon says he's got another comment that talks about broccoli salad. I love broccoli salad.
Yep. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and put a bow on this one. So make sure you all are, thank you so much, Sassy, for joining us. I appreciate you. You're always welcome on my channel. You know that.
Thank you.
And make sure you're all checking her out on Instagram, and hopefully we can get you back on YouTube here at some point when things settle down for you a little bit.
I'll get on.
Love it. We've lost so many good preppers. We lost so many good channels, you know?
Hey, I don't know if anybody on here has ever followed Linda's Prepper Kitchen.
Mhm. Yep,
She's back and she's throwing out the videos. She's back with a force.
yep,
So,
yep.
yep. So anyway.
And also Cliff, the urban prepper is back.
Really?
Yeah, I
Okay.
saw he posted on Instagram today. So
Oh, sweet.
he
Okay.
took a year off, and he's back at it. He posted something about his everyday urban bag that there's either the video is already up. I haven't had a chance to check yet, or it's coming up. So
It's
yep,
on YouTube,
yep,
right? Okay.
yep,
Yep.
yep.
Sweet.
So yeah, that is good news. But we have lost a lot of channels that had good content. Have just kind of, I know life gets in the way, and I totally get that. But
Yeah.
I miss some of the friends that we started with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm still here.
Good.
I'm still here. I've been studying. So,
I know. No, you're doing good things, and I get it. Sometimes we got to make those hard choices. So I totally get it.
yep. Yep.
Yeah. All right,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you.
What did you say?
I was saying thank you, everybody.
Oh, okay. Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves, and I will see you, I think, next week. Keep planting your seeds. Keep stacking your silver. This is Sassy Gal Prepping and Prepping with Sarge. Good night, everybody.